Howdy folks, Michael with the Reason RX podcast. Hope you are doing well. Back again. Ain't been doing enough podcast episodes here, but been busy with this and that. Curriculum to write up, doing some summer teaching, 2-week summer courses on OutSchool. That can go hard. Got classes to do there. Make sure I give the students plenty of notes. Take advantage of the 2 weeks that I'm together with them to help them learn thinking skills as well as content in math and science and SAT and everything. Got to work on getting them stuff, digging out notes and everything, always finding stuff new. Have stuff done, but there's always more to find. So busy with a lot of stuff like that. Making sure I get out in the morning, exercise, keep myself sane, functioning well. Good attitude, good thought processes, good memory, good creativity. Keep my brain in a complex environment, dealing with that complexity, but got to try to do more podcast episodes when I can. Anyway, hope you are doing well and surviving as a good human animal in our modern world. It has some flaws, has some good things about it, but we need to make the world better. That's what we're doing here. Reason RX podcast, business in general, helping develop optimal thought and optimal fitness so people can strive for an optimal life, live the best they can, take care of themselves, their friends, their family, their society, make for a better world, one life at a time. And today we're going to work on combining that, fitness and thought. Thought at the crux of practice, helping us move through the world. We're going to be back talking to Nick and Phil. Fitness, MovNat Medical, physical therapy, and so on and so forth. So I hope you like this and share this episode and others with friends, family, especially with teachers, principals, people in education. Help improve things in all kinds of different areas. You know, this podcast is about all things education. We are total human animals. We are holistic. All these different aspects. Look back at the other episodes. We've done a lot about that. So yeah, help spread the word, support the show. Give some likes up, financial donations if you want. But and then if you want, listen to some of the stuff. I can help your local school with teacher training. Help the school get better with curriculum, hierarchy of concepts, train teachers, so on and so forth. Do private tutoring for students as well. Help scientists learn about logic and epistemology to do better at their jobs. Make science better. But let's get to it. So let me get Nick and Phil on the line and we'll get started here. Record again. All right, so here they are, Phil and Nick. Back again. The great duo. Dig into more fitness stuff, talk about medical stuff, see what coaches, physical therapists, physical trainers in high schools and colleges can do to help improve, and people in general beyond that. Important stuff, as we said, we talk about getting into it now. But just saying hi. So y'all doing all right? Phil, Nick, all good there?
All good, Mike. Thanks for having us on again. It's great to get the band back together.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming after a bunch of schedule conflicts, but here we are.
Yeah, we've tried to do this earlier, folks, but something comes up. One person's got to cancel, someone else has to cancel, someone else has to cancel. So
yeah, we're all guilty.
So I kept sending text messages this week. Okay, who's got to cancel this time? We can all make it? What the hell? Craziness.
Life,
what is
man.
this?
Life, it happens.
I was half expecting.
Oh, hey, wait, Mike. have we last time we met? I don't think we congratulated Nick on his level 3, so we got to throw that shout out in there.
Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, that's
sweet. Good job.
That
Nick.
was probably one of my most rewarding accomplishments in my life, because it was hard.
Yeah,
very hard. And the last test was the rail test, and I just went out there one morning. I set my camera up, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. I just freaking nailed it, man.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. It's been I haven't felt that good about something in a long time. So, thank you guys for saying that. Appreciate that. Definitely, it was a lot of work and a very difficult certification to become competent in.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
I like that they make it so hard, and
Yes.
that it's not something that you can just put 2 weeks in and go towards. This is
Oh,
this
gosh.
is the
Even if you're a natural athlete, I think some of the stuff that they require you, it takes a lot of training.
There's so much. Even the rail, the rail has so many components to it. Up, down, getting a blow, the muscle up, power up, all that stuff. It's great that they make it that complex. And I think they boost it up just a little bit every year.
And sorry, folks, we'd like to tell you exactly some of what we're talking about, but what happens at level 3 stays at level 3.
We won't say anything else. We won't mention anything else. But,
so if you want to know,
definitely
you go try it yourself.
And everyone always tells me, oh, I'm not ready this year or something. I get there's a ready component, but there's a lot of people who are ready and just need to go and do it. And there's at least 2 people that I can think of off the top of my head locally over here. And I felt the same way myself, actually. A friend signed up and said, oh, there's only 2 spots left. And I literally had a no shit moment, and that's when I signed up for it, because I was thinking, I'm going to wait, and then I'll see how I'm feeling. And I got a little nudge, and I'm so happy that I did. And like I said, I did not pass, I don't know, maybe half of it while I was there. And it was a real life experience, though, because 1 and 2, I passed everything on the spot. So to be at level 3 and be so humbled, I mean, really so humbled, was beautiful. Was a great feeling. I'm so appreciative of Danny and Kimberly and oh my gosh, Kellen was there. That's who it was. So and all the people that I met there. I made so many good friends there. Ryan, Aaron, just so many people that were there, and we got to spend so much together, and we kind of became buddies of the failures and the successes. So it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a life-changing experience. I would say that I only passed about a quarter of the test during that weekend. And I just came home and I was just like, I'm going at this every day. I did a little bit of something here, a little bit of something there, and I just built my skill. And the biggest issue I had, I think, at the level 3 was my mental state. I wasn't mentally prepared for all the stuff that we had to do. And I just came home and said, I'm going to do it. And I practiced a little bit every week. And then finally, I think it was in April, I finally passed my last test.
Sweet.
That's great, man. That's great. It's so interesting what you're saying about the mental aspect of it. I was thinking about, I wonder what we're going to talk about today. And, I just kept thinking about the difference of isolation, doing something in isolation versus, more complex movements or more complex skills and activities. And I think that just really speaks to it about how, again, in the medical world, there's so much isolation training. Oh, if you have this, if A, then B, if 1, then 2. Like, it's just so algorithmic and like I said, in isolation, and there's no challenges to your mental capabilities, no cognitive challenges, there's no neuromuscular challenges. I don't mean none, but it's very few and far between, and a lot of times people go with the easiest answer. And so, like what you're saying about level 3, really challenging you mentally, emotionally, coordination, balance, all that stuff. That I think that just really speaks to what we've been talking about the past couple times that we get together. That there's so much more to this. There's so much more depth. Could you solve the answer with the easiest solution? Yeah, but this is a human being that we're working with. This isn't this isn't just a robot or a machine. It's a human being that has complex parts and has to make decisions and has to balance and coordinate and all this stuff together. So that's why, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but that's what popped out for me, thinking about things in isolation versus these complex movements that really challenge your whole self as an organism, as a human being.
Yeah. And I think maybe y'all are familiar with this too. I'd have to try to dig in to things and find some examples, but it seems to me I've heard about or maybe seen in movies as well, but it seems to me I've heard about some like Olympic athletes or high-level athletes who just have a breakdown if things are slightly different than what they expect. Like maybe they got to play tennis on some perfectly flat thing, and then all of a sudden maybe they're playing on grass, but they can't handle it. Some kind of Olympic stuff or tennis stuff. Does that ring a bell to y'all? Anything like that?
I get the concept of it and the idea 100%. We talk about it all the time. I can't think of a specific example, but it just speaks to, someone has the wrong shoes or, I brought these shoes instead of that shoes or something like that. And they're not, it's that adaptability, and there's so much, and again, not to speak against specificity of training. That's definitely important, but beyond being a tennis player, beyond being an Olympian, what are you? Are you a human being, or what's the depth of you as a being and as a person? And if all you've got is Olympian, then keep using your specific training and keep just doing that one thing and go for it by all means. But just think about what else that's there.
But
I don't know. It's kind of sad that we overlook that.
But kind of the point is not specificity as such. The point is that they break down if conditions aren't exactly in a certain way.
Or if the routine gets out of whack, or a lot of people do a certain thing follow a certain routine on game day, and if that is altered in any way, that can mess up their performance, at least according to what they believe.
Yeah, and
that's a lack of adaptability. Right.
It's mindset. That's a factor that's missing in their training. They really need to put into play there.
This is a great conversation because, I think the three of us could definitely argue both points. We can argue, like I would probably coach an athlete, no different than if they're shooting a free throw. We know that that's always been, routine. Bounce the ball 3 times, stop, exhale, look at the basket, whatever. Everyone has their own routine, but put that routine in place and that'll increase your success level. Absolutely 100%. There's no doubt about it. The research shows that. But like you're saying, if you sneeze or if you blink, an extra time, or if sweat drips off your nose, is that going to throw you off? And does that throw you out of your routine? What if you can't do your routine? What if you, for some reason something is off? And can you have, I guess my question to you two is, can you have both? Can you have your routine, but can you also be adaptable? Or is it kind of one or the other?
No, because I think essential, I'd say, to the so-called routine is just a technique. And the thing is to get that technique in a broader context. And when you're starting, you always do stuff that's simple. No one ever, when you learn something in math or physics at first, you don't learn, okay, here's kinetic energy. Ke equals 1/2 mv squared. Okay, now we're going to get this circular thing, and you got to measure the distance and the time yourself, and then you got to do this differential equation and blah, 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 and do kinetic energy. No. You get a velocity, you plug it into the equation, you get the answer. You play with the velocity and mass in simple instances, maybe get the energy and mass and find the velocity. Then you can start to put it in more complex situations. It's the same thing, like it's just our nature to have to focus on that one thing. It's got to be simple. You teach that, train some examples to get the idea down and start to get it wired. And then you got to put it in the wild if it's going to sink in and make sense. And that's been proven in a lot of learning experiments. Like, for example, it comes up in the book Range by David Epstein, which I was thinking about anyway, because we were talking about range and all that. That's a good book people should listen to and then think about how to apply it to fitness and sports and everything and training. But and these people, the Learning Scientist podcast, I'll put some of this in the show notes for folks. But where'd the little thing, I had a little, there it is, email, put some stuff, Learning Podcast, Learning Scientist podcast. They got some stuff about that too. I think it's in there, where for something to sink in and have you retain it long term, you need to do non-simple examples. You need to mix it up with other things. So like in math, maybe you're doing like if you've already learned it, when you're doing linear equations, you got to do a lot of linear equations at first. But then if it's going to sink in, you got to have a whole variety of linear equations with fractions and negatives and positives and some that doesn't work. And then studying for a final, you want to do a quadratic and then a linear equation and then a system of equations and then a word problem ratio and mix it up like that. Similar thing should happen.
What's that?
You know, you get...
What's that MovNat language? What's the terminology that we have for that?
Complexity.
Right? It's complexity, but also adaptability.
Yes.
Right? Not that you know the skill, but like you said, if something changes... I remember at level 3, we were crawling on like a rock wall or something that was it was the most diverse hand-foot placement that I've ever done a foot-hand crawl on. I was like, holy cow, I've never done this before. And, you know, like you're saying, someone else could throw in a different kind of linear equation that's going to challenge you a little bit more. And do you at least have an idea of where you should be? You don't have to be perfect at it, but you at least have an idea of where you should be versus being completely stumped and frozen where you have nothing that you can possibly contribute to that answer. Right? Does that make sense? Like, we don't expect you to nail everyone that's in variety or different context, but you should at least have some understanding of where you're standing or where you are and where you're starting from and what you're going to go with.
Yeah, and the more you get all those different examples, the broader you push your context or your environmental mastery out, whatever that may be. Yeah. Environmental mastery of physics or math or English or fitness. More and more examples, more and more variety to push out the complexity you're competent in.
Yeah. And I would say that I would argue that it makes you truly competent, right? Like truly competent, not just that you can repeat it and regurgitate it back, which is unfortunately what a lot of our schooling is, but that you're truly developing competence around that subject.
Yeah. Yeah, like Mark Twain said, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education.
He has the best quote of any historical figure in American history. That guy was just a genius. I was going to say, you can move this conversation to the rehab world, and the application of natural movement to somebody's functional capacity in a static clinic environment, moving into an outdoor environment, moving into their home environment, moving into a natural environment. You know, the best part about teaching MovNat Medical to process to patients is, you know, you can take it in this one bland clinic environment and go outside and make it a little more complex, have them show a little more adaptability in these movements, and that will further the rehabilitation process.
Yeah, and that's a whole different issue of the philosophy of rehab there, seems to me.
Yes.
Like, some people, without knowing it, they're implicit, accepted without much thinking, because they're so focused on their career. You know what I mean? Accepted without much thinking out of stupidity, because we all are busy and don't think of everything. But, you know, just they're doing the best they can and what other people do. But it turns out that it's like, well, damn, I'm just like doing a clinical thing to prepare them, and it's like this sterile, limited thing they're doing. They think makes it success, but a good philosophy should be rehab for the real world, fit for the real world. As, you know, as you're saying, it's like a good philosophic change is in order to help improve some of that. Like, because you probably know, how many people do you know that go to the gym and do a deadlift and they have good form, and then they blow out their back by like taking a light thing out of the trunk of their car, you know?
Great example. Yep. That's a really good example. You know, they could do a barbell deadlift all day, but they can't reach into the trunk of the car and pick something up successfully.
Yeah. I think
it's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's context and the way we think. They start processing that, kind of like when we're talking about the routine for doing a free throw, you know, they get that habit, and it's a similar thing. They don't have the range, the context. So technique comes about only when you have certain clothes on and music's playing and you're in a certain place and people are around and you have certain equipment. Other than that, whatever. So they should be taught deadlift stuff. You don't just deadlift this like perfectly symmetrical bar. What about deadlifting like some bags of groceries?
Sandbag.
Yeah, sandbags, bags of groceries, bottles of water, different heights.
Yep.
Then you're starting to get that one technique and expand the context with different examples, so you got a broader range of environmental mastery. Otherwise, the way it's done, it's very limited in the environmental mastery they have right then. So no wonder they blow out their back, because the way we process things, that's not a context where they think about technique, but it needs to be made a context by coaches, fitness trainers, physical therapists. You know, we need to get that philosophic change in there to have them think about fitness for the real world instead of just injury recovery.
Nick, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because what I see in rehab is two extremes. I either see the same old, rote, like monotonous, you know, TheraBand, isolated movements, or I see something so extreme and so specific that I'm like, oh my God, dear Lord, like how is this, you know, going to apply and to more than, you know, 1% of the population? You know, people have this specialized technique, or they have a specialized, you know, I always make the joke about the guy on the BOSU with a TheraBand around his head and two other ones around his knee, and he has an ankle weight on. And technically, like you're right, and they're bouncing a tennis ball like up and down. Or there's been a lot of data about, there's a lot of data now, and I don't want to wreck it because I haven't read a lot of the information about blowing up balloons to increase abdominal diaphragmatic pressure, you know, which there might be something onto that I'm just not aware of. But just simply the specificity of that, of what I see, that people who are held in high accolades are so specific that I'm like, okay, but let's go back to the basics. Can somebody, like you said, like Mike, you nailed it, and it's not sexy. Can you lift up grocery bags and deadlift a sandbag? Like, that's not sexy. You know, we were just comparing the CrossFit Games, that they were deadlifting a 450-pound sandbag, or they were cleaning a 450-pound sandbag to their shoulder.
Wow.
So I'm like, you know, the 40-pound one, oh, well, I could clean, you know, 180, so why am I doing a 45-pound sandbag? Well, because that bag of mulch is what screwed you over. But so, yeah, anyway, Nick, do you see that? Like, to me, that is what drives me insane. Where it's either like they're not even touching on it, or they're so specific. Oh, yeah, I do that. Well, you do that, but you go way too far to being functional or practical.
I've worked with therapists who, you know, obviously in the medical field, there's a lot of egos. You've probably seen that, Bill. Drives me bonkers. I've worked with therapists, I think, who give exercises to people because they're this weird, movement with doing this and doing that, mainly just to kind of show off that they know how to give really cool exercises. You know, in the PT world, or at least what I've seen, I'm actually back in home health. I left my outpatient job in April, and I'm back in home health. I'm starting my own company, and we can talk about that later. But anyway, so the people in outpatient world that I've seen the last couple of years are obsessed with repetitions and time, because, you know, they have to bill a certain amount of time with their therapeutic exercises. So, I mean, they're giving these people 15 exercises, 30 reps each. And I'm just thinking, is this really rehab, or is this just time under tension, basically to, you know, make sure they get a good enough bill that they can bill the patient to justify their salary? You know, I got sick and tired of trying to keep people for an hour in there who don't need that much. And it was more, you know, okay, let's do some prone rows, 3 sets of 10. Let's go do some front rows, 3 sets of 10. Let's go do some, you know, we'll do some wall waxing, 30 reps each. And it's just rep after rep after rep after rep. And is that really how people live their life? You know, especially people that aren't actively engaged in, you know, a fitness program. I mean, they're not going to go in their house and pick up their groceries 30 times in a row. You know what I'm saying? Am I making any sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
The PT rehab world is obsessed with repetitions. Concentric, eccentric, concentric. They're not worried about movement patterns, and it's all like linear type of, for the most part, a lot of it's linear, in one plane of motion or the other. There's not this dynamic natural movement that people should be working on. And I think I've realized that the past couple of years being back in outpatient. And,
Nick, I'm curious. I just want to talk to that point of what you're saying about. There's a word that I like a lot. I don't know why it just sticks in my head, but that's precision. And, you know, like you said, all right, you're doing rows with a band. I could make an argument on why those rows are helpful to that person. But,
yes,
you know, technically it's not wrong, but the precision of what you're doing is, again, you're just throwing something that's in the vicinity, and you're like, you know, that should help, versus being really precise, you know, whether it's hanging or scat pulls or things along those lines that we talk about MovNat. And I don't know, I'm just curious how that resonates with you, the thought of precision and of treatment. And if you feel, because like I think about the success you had with the pastor and working on his Achilles and all the stuff that you did, like that felt like you were being very precise in giving him what he needed, both functionally and physiologically. And it seemed, I mean, when I saw him with that driver, I was so pumped because you could just see the guy was in his element.
Yeah, I think I think you have to balance both worlds. You know, so when I treated this gentleman actually, we just finished up 2 weeks ago. He's doing great.
Cool.
It was awesome. And he's the first person that I actually really, truly focused on the stuff I learned the MovNat Medical course with. And he loved it. Like the first day, you know, we're going outside, walking barefoot in the grass. He's like, "What are we doing?" I said, "Don't worry about it. Just listen to me, trust me." It's so funny because he actually had one of his friends tear his Achilles at the same time. Same surgeon. The surgery date was very close to each other, and he did so much better than his friend did.
Interesting. Sweet.
I think how are we not getting that published, Nick? Nick, we gotta get that published.
You got a research study there. You got a control group.
Dave just wrote me a good review on Google. So I was pretty pumped about that. But anyway, so
we need a good review in the Journal of New England Medicine.
Yeah. I doubt they'll publish one case study from me, but so I think you have to balance both worlds. You know, teach them precision exercises in one plane of motion where they can actually feel the contraction, awaken the nervous system, monitor for pain, et cetera, et cetera. And then once they're successful doing that, not for 30 reps, maybe for 5 or 10, or can they hold it isometrically? Can they control their eccentric motion? Is their concentric motion, is it of good quality? And then might add in some more natural movements in that specific area. So I think a good balance is what we need to shoot for.
Then sometimes you got to focus, just like on math or whatever, you got to focus on that one thing and drill a bunch, then bring it into the wild. Then one thing you could do is, I think if people are doing certain exercises, okay, let's go do our curls. Then you got your whole context, your neurology, your mind, focus on the curls. Okay, now let's go do some bench press. And then everything else is gone, and you just do the bench press. But a better thing to help really get your technique down and everything would be do like 5 or 10 or 30 of one thing. Okay, now walk on a balance beam. Okay, now crawl. Okay, now do this. Okay, now do that. Okay, now go back to doing 5 or 30 of this other thing. Then it's a different context, and you got to be switching back and forth. And with the neurological demands, that makes it set more and helps you, at least from what I've read and from what I've experienced, and helps you get that thing down better. I know, for example, I've been out taking people out in the woods before. We go running around. We're running, all of a sudden we're crawling, and then we're balancing on a log, and then we're doing this. And they get tired out just by the neurological and mental effort of all this change, because they're not used to it. It's like, okay, if we're running, we're running. And then if we're deadlifting, we're deadlifting. And you don't jump from one thing to the other and really have to keep good technique all the time.
Mike, that always sneaks up to me when I teach a elements workshop, because there's a nice park. It's got a little half-mile loop around it that's like a trail. And I have stations that I know along the way because I've been there, going there for years. And I kind of, okay, we're going to run through the woods, down this trail, and then we're going to hit this station and we're going to do some deadlifts, and we're going to hit this station, do some cleans, and this station do some balance, and this station do some jumps. And I'm like, okay, now let's just go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. And I see the fatigue on everybody's face, and I'm going, what? I didn't think we really did that much, but you're right. This is the the cognitive fatigue that we're talking about that is missing in isolation. And the actual idea of learning, and not just being fixed by like a pill or by one specific exercise. But Nick said it, awakening the nervous system and getting that back online, because during an injury we know that just in the cortex, not even in just the peripheral nervous system, but the central nervous system, the cortex will decrease the volume of nerves that are firing or the amount of activation. We know that on functional MRIs over I think it's 24 to 72 hours. We'll see decreases and changes in there. So needing to get that sparked. I forget where I read it, but I think it was Adrian Lau I think he's in Australia or New Zealand. He was talking about, you flip through a magazine, and if you sprained your left ankle, you circle all the left ankles, and that increases your cognitive awareness to it. And again, that's a very, very specific drill. But if we thought about and connected that with, like what you're saying, going from one thing to the next and having diversity and context, there is going to be a lot more, and obviously it has to be scaled to what the person's able to do, but the neurological and neuromuscular education has to be, that component has to be there. It has to be challenged, not just, technically we did some activation and warmed it up, but that's great, but did you push them to a little bit just past, again, we don't want to burn it out, but just slightly past what's capable of doing, so that you get that specific adaptation. So, that's one of the things I always challenge people to say is, that's a great exercise. That exercise is correct. That is perfectly, spot on for what they need. Do you feel that they were challenged by it? And if not, then, how can we, through volume, intensity, or complexity, how can we challenge them? And that's really fun, because to see a lot of interns are like, what do you mean? They're thinking black and white, the textbook answer. And I tell them that answer is correct. That exercise that you prescribed for this guy is correct. But also, do you think that it's challenging him? And then they look at me like, I don't know. And they, they'll use it with the patient, and then they'll try to challenge them a little bit further. And they're amazed at how much, they could actually do more. And that's always so rewarding for them to see, okay, cool. It doesn't just have to be the simplest answer. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I think it would help high school athletes, college, people in general, like with some of the even non-physical therapy training, like do stuff repetitively. I do sets of 5, 10, 30 different things. But what's someone going to do is, Nick says, you're not going to lift something up like 30 times in a row, 30 bags of groceries. But what will you do? You will get a bag of groceries out of your car. You will walk with it, put it down. You will walk back out, stop, get on one knee, pet your dog a little bit, get back up, walk. Oh, there's your kid. You get your kid and throw your kid up like 5 times and put him down. Go to get that other bag of groceries, bring it back inside, put it down, get the last bag or 2, close the trunk, go back and put it down, then put the groceries in. And in real life, there's variety. We should train for that. Then then if it's being trained, then people are going to be more aware of having good technique and all these different things they're doing. Picking something up, putting something down. They got to put the groceries back up in the certain places. They got to carry stuff. You got to like bend down or squat down to pet the dog. That's where people are at risk of having bad technique because they're not trained into it and then getting hurt. So that's something where it should be taken care of more.
Especially when they're fatigued.
Yeah, amen.
When I first started training MovNat 3 years ago now, the first thing I noticed when I was just doing the basic ground movements, balance, things that I was doing, is my brain was tired. I could just feel fatigued, as if my cerebrum was just overflowing with too much electricity or something. But over the course of time, I adapted to it, and now I'm not as tired in my brain as I was in the past.
Yeah, adaptability.
That's great. Yeah, I remember that actually from level 1. The first day we came back and they check in and they say, "How's everybody feeling today?" And a lot of people's story, and I think I told this story before, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, my hip's a little achy, my back's a little stiff," like something along those lines. So I was like, my body actually feels phenomenal, but I was exhausted last night. Like when I went to bed, I freaking crashed, and it didn't feel like it was physically hard, but I know that mentally my body was, those neuronal connections, those axons and dendrites were like, joo. I think there's in the Matrix, there's a scene where they play that out, what that looks like. And it was like, joo, like there's just all these connections happening. Mm-hmm. And we know that requires actually more ADP than doing physical activity, studying and learning, and learning something. So again, everything that you're saying, Nick, makes complete sense. And it would be nice to bring that a little bit more, bring a little more light into the rehab world with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Phil, what do you think that in general, the physical therapy profession, the PTs, especially working in an outpatient clinic, do we do enough to really challenge people's neurology, their neuronal connections, to bring people back to their proper functionality?
If it is, I would say my general answer is no way, no freaking way at all. Maybe I hear a lot where it's like the last 2 weeks of their rehab or the last couple of sessions they really get challenged a little bit more. But beyond that, the concept of learning something, and again, part of it's the system. Yeah, if you're forced to see 4 or 6 patients an hour, which I'm fortunate that I don't. But some clinics see 4 to 6 patients an hour. Like, how can you sit there and make sure, we know that there's a lot of factors that go into learning. We want to make sure that somebody, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And if the patient's doing an activity wrong, that needs to be monitored. And if some high school aide is there's no way that they're doing that. So part of it is the system. I don't want to point to physical therapists and say, we're not doing our job. We're doing the best we can, and corporate world, as it's probably any profession, is just putting a huge burden on us to see, like I said, that 4 to 6 patients an hour. There's no way you can stay with somebody and make sure that they're learning activation and scapular depression with glenohumeral flexion and or hip external rotation as you go into a squat with deep flexion. There's a lot of things. I mean, those are so fundamental and basic, but you're right. If we're not teaching that, it's a huge disservice. It's a huge disservice to the functional carryover of carrying something, going up and down a step, getting up and down off the ground. Yes, technically we did what we were supposed to do, but we're kind of missing the mark. And again, there is stuff out there. I don't want to say like there's not, but I would say majority of the time, I would say upwards of 90%, it's not challenging the nervous system.
Interesting.
It's sad. It's sad, but it's so. And again, I'll go back to my example. Then you have the opposite extreme where somebody sees something. There's a guy on social media, and he works with a lot of like NFL players. And I look at the stuff that he does, and don't get me wrong, I'm tempted to use it with my patients. And I'm going, there's no what they do not know. No. Is what he's doing challenging someone's core stabilization? Absolutely 100%. Is there one aspect that I could take out of it that might be interesting and make the activity that the patient's doing a little bit more interesting? Absolutely. But if I just take that, if I was a young therapist or if I was even an experienced therapist and I see that and I just say, oh, this is the best of the best, they're doing something that makes, if they're doing it, we should be doing it. And that's, I think, what gets us in a lot of trouble and makes us miss the mark. Because, again, if they try to argue their point, they're technically correct. I'm challenging their nervous system. I'm increasing their core activation. Specifically, I'm thinking of a guy kneeling on a physio ball and, like, catching multiple objects, almost like he's juggling back and forth with somebody. And, again, you're multitasking. You're challenging the core. You're getting your hips involved. You're getting your core involved. I can't argue that that's not accomplishing that. But does my high school athlete need that? Probably not. Right. Split squats on the 2x4 while I'm tossing him a dowel will probably accomplish the same exact thing, and it's a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more functional for him. So
yeah, same thing. Like the Navy SEALs are sleep deprived during their weekend training, but does that mean they're tough and we should do that? Everybody should do that all the time? No.
Exactly.
Or sometimes I feel really good when I'm fasting. Like maybe I don't eat for 24 hours or I go like, I've been able to go up to 2 to 6 days. Maybe I feel really good, but does that mean I should fast 24/7, 365? No.
Every program you assign somebody, at least in the fitness and rehab spectrum or world, has to be specific to that person's goals, specific to their needs, specific to their population.
And their context where they are. Not everybody's a professional athlete.
And
should not be trained that way.
Yeah, that's where, the skill as a provider, you have to, or the knowledge, you need to be able to relate that to somebody. Because there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. I mean, I look at videos on Instagram or whatever social media outlet, and I'm thinking, do I really want to do that? I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be able. I don't want to, have to. I don't want to do a cartwheel on a bar 10 feet in the air. I just don't want to do it. It'd be cool, but I don't need to do that. I'm not going to teach anybody that I'm not going to teach anybody I have in my profession that stuff either. Like, that's just, it doesn't, because nobody does that. It's not a practical movement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's so much else in life you could be spending 100%. Time on. Yeah.
What'd you say, Phil?
Yeah. I say, Nick, that's 100% spot on. Somebody was just talking to me, I forget what about teaming up with somebody with a big name. And I said, you know what, they're not going to be interested. I don't know, maybe they will be, but what we do is extremely, extremely effective. It is super spot on. People connect with it. Like you and I know this. We've been doing it for years, and it's catching on, and a lot of other people are doing it. But again, it is very hard to market this stuff. I was just on a phone call with a physio from Canada, and he said, "How do you get your GPs and your orthos to know that you're doing this?" And I said, "Oh, hell's no, I'm not telling them about this. All they know is that my patients are happy and they're extremely successful
and they're getting better.
They go back to see them. Yeah, and they go back to see them and they're thrilled. Oh yeah, look, I can do this. Is there anything else bothering you? Nope, I'm great. That's all they know. And so they like me. Do they know what technique I use? Hell's no. Do they care what technique is? I don't think so. Even if they did care, unless it was maybe a machine that I had. If I had a machine, then they'd be like, you you should go see Phil. He has the X2000. It's easy to convey that, right? Like you could picture that.
He's got a suspension trainer. You gotta go see him.
The one I think about, like the Alter G. I'm like, that's great. It has its place, but it's not that. That doesn't make a good therapist. So that kind of thing, and no one's gonna be thrilled about what we're doing with functional, natural movement. But I've given up. I throw my arms in the air and I've said, forget it. I don't care if anybody's excited. I don't care. My name is not going to be in lights, but I have great people that I connect to that feel the same way, such as the two of you guys. And my patients are successful. And now, lo and behold, nationally and internationally, people want to hear more about it via the MovNat Medical course. So that's my course. That's my path that I'm taking. And, it's not sexy, but it freaking works. And I'm couldn't be happier.
Yeah. I will say, going back to the course that I attended in March, I loved it, Phil. I thought it was great. Of course, that is my interest, but it's very practical. The challenge is to teach other people to get out of their mindset that they've been taught and say, hey, let's try this, and actually try this with your patients, because you're going to find that they enjoy doing this stuff because it gets them moving the way they're supposed to be moving, and they become more physically competent different areas of their life, and there's a massive carryover, and that's where their satisfaction comes in.
And so we've talked about, in past episodes, we've talked about the background of this, and then we're going to talk a little bit more, I guess maybe not this time, but maybe we can have another talk next time. We got all this other stuff to say, but did you want to get into MovNat Medical and how the course went and what it's about and using it with clients and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it was I have so many testimonials from everyone. I got emails back for at least 2 weeks afterwards, and I had a couple follow-up phone calls with 2 or 3 people. And, there was just so much positive feedback about how applicable it was, how it answered all their questions that they have, and how it was really, really easy. How much the best part was not just that the TPT had used it, but that her patient was thrilled. Like, she was nervous, like, oh, I'm going to go back and they're going to be, like, what are you doing? And it was the exact opposite. The patient was thrilled. Oh my God, I really enjoy this. Oh, this is really, awesome. That was one of our best sessions, and to me, that's one of the best testimonials that I had, because, you can love it and have a good time. That's great. But when you apply it, what happens? Do you just enjoy it, or does the patient enjoy it as well? Well, that's where it really kicks in, and like Nick was saying, this is applicable to people. You have to think about what they're doing as a human being and as a person, and you can apply that to maybe their job or to other things. But, what's more rewarding for a patient than to really be seen, to feel that you see them. You're not just treating them like another, number or statistic or just someone who's coming and going, like on a fast food line. You're seeing them as a person, and you're developing the specific program for them that it's melded around their pathophysiology, what's wrong, what their injury is, as well as what do they need to accomplish in their daily life. And again, I know no other program that has that kind of focus on those two areas together, both at the same time.
Yeah.
And again, when the patients are they feel a sense of excitement. And as much as I like to say it's about the doctors, this is really about getting back to the patients and giving them something different. And I start posting those testimonials, and that's why I like Nick. You've been posting 2 or 3, and those really mean the world to me, because I love you, bro, and I love that you enjoyed the course, but the patients are the ones that we're talking about, and so to hear their testimonies, those are really, really, really very, very rewarding for me.
Yes, that's what it's all about, because we are providers of natural movement education, natural movement rehabilitation to people, and that brings us satisfaction, because we see it actually help people get them back to their goals. When Dave told me, he said, Nick, I played 18 holes of golf with 0 problems.
Cool.
He was my friend, still hasn't been cleared to play any golf. I said, well, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that maybe the different avenue we took, your rehab, more movement-based, actually in an outdoor environment, stimulated your nervous system a little bit more to prepare you for those more advanced activities a little quicker. That's my clinical conclusion. But so he was very thrilled. And it's just I will say this, that through MovNat and the MovNat Medical course, I learned more about teaching people how to move their body properly, efficiently, safely than I ever did in physical therapy school.
Sweet. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Even now when I work with people, and I'm more in the geriatric environment, bed mobility, doing the half rolling and all that stuff that we do in MovNat, it makes so much of a difference. It's sit to stand transitions, hip hinging, all that stuff that we learned. It makes a huge difference with teaching people how to move. And once they grasp it and they practice it, oh, you're right. It does make a difference. I said, it's not that you can move. It's just you're not moving efficiently the way your body's supposed to. And then once you teach them that, they respond so much better because they get that positive feedback.
Yeah. Oh man, Nick, I've been having a good week, and you just made it even. You just topped it, man. I'm getting all choked up over here. I want to reach you to the phone, and I want to high five you. I want to give you a hug.
We had a good time that weekend. That was great. I loved the whole course.
That was a great group, man. We had such variety of people who were in home care, people who were advanced. I forget her name. I can picture her face 100%, but I think it was Justine. She was a very, very advanced clinician. She taught her own continuing ed courses, and she was just, took a whole bunch away from it. So we had that. We had people who had been out of practice for a year or two and getting back into it. We had home care. We had orthopedics. We had so many different areas, and I really loved that everybody was engaged and involved, and the case studies at the end, those were perfect, and just the collaboration of, and saying, okay, well, what else would you do? What else? Okay, this was good, but come on, chime in more, people. What else can we use? Because that's the thing. Every patient's going to be different, and so to be able to keep yourself excited, you're not bored and just going through, okay, every patient with a knee problem gets these 4 exercises, and every patient with this gets this 5 exercises. You're really making it more specific, and again, that stimulates our nervous system, so we can be more excited and enjoy what we do.
So when's the next course, Phil? Isn't it coming up in New Mexico?
Yeah. Yep, New Mexico. It's about I think it's just a month from now, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. I'm going to be flying out there.
That's awesome.
Langford PT has been a huge supporter of MovNat. They've hosted certifications for, I think, 5, 6, 7 years. It's both a PT practice, and they have all the MovNat equipment from Cube in their facility. So it's going to be challenging for me because I'm going to love to play on the equipment, but I want to, you know me, I want to teach the course as if you're in the clinic without it, that you don't need this specialty equipment. You can just do it on your own. So it's going to be a challenge to balance that for me for sure. But I'm just excited to meet everybody over there, and they've got an awesome crew. Jimmy's the manager, and Jenny's been teaching MovNat for a while, and she just got in on the educators course. So just a lot of great people there. I'm really excited for that one.
We were supposed to go there last year, but something happened. Remember that, Mike?
Oh yeah.
We were supposed to go down to Albuquerque
for Level 3.
To do I think an afternoon session on the cube equipment, but something happened. We couldn't do it.
I remember. Yeah, maybe it was a COVID nonsense and all that going on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think it was something to do with COVID. So I've never trained or done anything on the. I would love to see the cube equipment.
I'm torn between that because we did do that day in Albuquerque, and that was a lot of fun and having the equipment. But the day in the canyon, I think, has to be number one. So that you know.
Canyon, man. Oh,
that rocks.
Oh my God.
All I gotta say is, oh my God.
Time.
Unfortunately,
I don't know. That was 4, 5, 6 hours,
yeah.
And it was like wow, it just kept going.
Yeah, that was
flew by,
awesome, man.
Like, beautiful. But when we went, it was kind of dry, and y'all, I think sometimes people go in the creeks like full of water and running. But when we went, it was a little drier, and we didn't have the same experience y'all did, or we didn't get rain and hail on us.
Yeah, we got rain for about 20 minutes just as we were going in. That was awesome, and then it stopped, so it was a good balance of both.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just make a document, a video, just the canyon.
Yeah.
Documentary, just call it the canyon.
Yeah, exactly. Amen.
All the clips from every year that they've gone in there.
Yeah, gosh, man, that's gonna be awesome. Anyway, guys, I gotta get off here. I apologize.
Yeah, me too.
My kids are here. I gotta get them ready for bed. So
can you say briefly?
Good talking with you, man. I miss you guys.
All right, so much to say. Maybe we can do another episode.
Yeah, maybe.
That's great, Mike. I look forward to it.
But hey there. I'm just saying hi to one of these kids, folks. Okay. All right. So thank you all. Good discussion. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time. Any last words for folks?
I would say exploring, keep learning new stuff.
If there's anybody in the rehabilitation world, the medical world, that wants to learn about human movement, natural movement, please attend the MovNat Medical course. It's very, very high quality, very well done. So Phil, hats off to you, buddy, and the rest of the team.
Yes.
All
right. Anything, Phil?
Just keep learning. If the doctors, the physical therapy, keep learning. The patients, make sure your patients keep learning. That's it. That's part of who we are as human beings, and do not stop doing that. Please, 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 I implore you. That's it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. And get out. Be a good human animal. Mind and body. Peace out. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. Bye, Mike.
Bye. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. But yeah, we've got MovNat in schools. There's that program people have at MovNat and MovNat Medical. So use this stuff for fitness prevention as well as therapy and recovery. We want to have a program people can learn some good fitness training that's not just sports, but things people can do after school. I mean, like after school while they're in school, but when they graduate, when they get out through their adult lives, we should have some training of things they can do: balance, weightlifting, climbing, running, groundwork that they could do on an everyday basis while they're, as we've talked about, petting the dog, playing with the dog, petting the cat, playing with the kids, buying groceries and all this stuff. Maintain fitness. Fitness, there's there are a lot of opportunities that are lost because of some mistaken conception of what fitness is. It's only like in a gym thing or when you got a gym outfit on. It's an adaptation to the world, being strong and capable, efficient and resilient, and moving around through the world, through the physical environment, mentally and physically. So with the MovNat in schools, we can make people strong, competent, more self-confident. As we've talked about, it helps neurologically, helps learning, memory, behavior control. There's a research out there to prove it, is in the book Spark by John Rady. Would help with athletes, cheerleaders, volleyball players, softball players, baseball players, golfers, football players, all that, soccer players, helping their rehab, as we're talking about with the MovNat Medical. Therapists, trainers should be trained in this hardcore, delve into it, work on helping the whole athlete and the whole person return back to their sport instead of just working on one kind of joint, a muscle, whatever. So the MovNat stuff would help in that way. Then you got all these specialties, MovNat giving you a broad background and giving you some things you can focus on for specialties, but still everything else, obviously, yoga, CrossFit, football, things done right with good technique are valuable. We're specialized generalists, so we should have that general fitness down, and then we can specialize in something, or just specialize in being a generalist. But then we also got the philosophic point of how some therapy in schools, colleges, elementary schools, high schools for athletes can be thought of, getting them ready to go back into the real world, participate fully in their sport, not merely recover from some injury. And that's one thing MovNat has done really well. Some people, without thinking through things fully, clearly a therapist knows they're dealing with a person, but they might be too focused on a joint issue, muscle, ligament, or something. And without the learning, it sure didn't happen to me. I didn't figure this out on my own automatically. Studying philosophy, MovNat, other things, it's giving me this integrated perspective. But MovNat has a good integrated perspective. I don't think any or many other systems do. It's got mindfulness, but not mindfulness as some things do, like maybe yoga. Okay, you're just aware of things. Think about your inner state, but what we need, the kind of mindfulness we need, is an awareness of our surroundings and how to move through our environment. That kind of mindfulness, that concept, not just the concept of like being self-aware or whatever. We need some meditation that helps us, but for good physical therapy, people need to be aware of what they're doing. We're self-sovereign animals. We can't just have someone give us a pill or say we're okay, repair some muscle, and then we go out and do things all alone, as if on our own, as if it's hunky-dory. We need the awareness of what we're doing. If we had a problem, it's because of poor, wrong ideas, lack of ideas that led to the issue. For the most part, there's car accidents and stuff. Some things are out of our control, obviously, but even if there was a car accident, we need to know how to do things well ourselves after therapy. MovNat has that total system in place. The mindfulness, the adaptability, the efficiency, the focus on technique, bringing neurology and mental awareness into play that no other system does. other things have a lot, and they deserve credit, and we should do them. Like, lifting in the gym. Whoever talks about mindfulness or being aware of moving through your environment there? No one that I'm aware of. Or martial arts can to some extent, but then it needs to be pushed. The boundaries of people need to stay mindful wherever they are, not just in the dojo, and they need to take it into natural environments and learn new skills and new awarenesses in that complex environment. As we talked about, we have a context where we can do something, and we need examples, real experiences that push the envelope and make that context broader. The context of our competence, the range and depth, what kind of situations you can do something in. That needs to be developed more. MovNat has that down really well. I'm not aware of anything else that really does that. Having good technique, being efficient, adapting, being mindful, being social. There are some other aspects that should be brought into physical therapy that would help improve the philosophy of it, improve sports trainers in high school and all that. And notice it comes to thinking skills. Thought and action are related. It's not going to be possible to get some of this down until we get the ideas and thinking skills that underlie these good practices. So that's another thing I think would help with the sports trainers, physical therapists, really get some good philosophy nailed down. It's important. Just like there's a lot of people who did Ptolemaic mathematics. Ptolemy was influenced by Plato. He was ingenious, very smart, came up with some amazing math involving circles to get some of the mathematics of what we see some stars and planets doing. But it wasn't based on causation or the nature of things or identity. It wasn't good thinking. It wasn't inductive. People were lost in math. They would deduce things. Galileo, Newton had to come along and get science done right. They had to get what Aristotle said about the essence of logic and reasoning and science. It comes from experience. They had to get that idea and develop it beyond what Aristotle had, make things inductive. Newton said that explicitly. Galileo knew he was being truer to Aristotle's principles than were the scholastics who were arguing with him, who said that the sun goes around the earth. They were explicitly influenced by Plato, and by Aristotle, in being committed to the evidence of the senses. And that's one thing we need to do. There's people who are influenced by Ptolemaic astronomy, and some of their work was therefore probably a waste. They would have had more of an influence and done better work if they had a better philosophy behind them. Other people have said that. Einstein's talked about the importance of philosophy. E.O. Wilson, many others. So if we get that done right in physical therapy as well, it could be better. Everyone in physical therapy and sports medicine, maybe they're a little, their philosophies all vary. Depends on the person, of course, individual variation. But if we can get some more mainstream good philosophy, it would help physical therapy a lot. Help the trainers, help their athletes, perform better on the field, stay longer, avoid some injuries, and recover better for daily life. Those are some points I wanted to make. This kind of underlying philosophy or lack of in some therapy. If we bring in a philosophy that considers neurology, the mind, adaptability, putting a person in an everyday situation, then the clients will have more success and be happier. That's the ultimate goal, to get a living, breathing, self-sovereign social animal out and back working in the world, optimal fitness, optimal, striving toward optimal fitness and optimal thought to live a better life. Need to kind of have that philosophic perspective, that broad picture, that guidance to help clients better. So there's that physical point, philosophic point. Sorry, I'm hungry. I'm tired. I need to eat. Been a long day teaching. So I think there might have been one other point I was going to add to this, but some of this I'd like Nick and Phil in on. They'd say a lot more because they're into the physical therapy, but it'd be interesting to hear about how MovNat Medical could help trainers with football players, volleyball players, cheerleaders, how it could help people in physical education classes and in athletics so they can even avoid some of the injuries they might have otherwise. Never mind the fact that the MovNat would help with recovering and therapy. I'd love to hear some of what they have to say about that. But good conversation with them. And I shall put maybe some stuff in the show notes about what Einstein and others say about the importance of a good philosophy. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was beneficial and you learned a lot. Please share this with coaches, physical therapists, sports trainers, teachers, principals, people in general. Let's make the culture better by getting some good ideas and good thinking skills, good practices out there. A little bit at a time, as the teacher story goes, one starfish at a time. Can't save them all, but you can save some. Spread the word, give some likes, and listen to the other episodes if you'd like. Good stuff in there. So thank you, and be a good human animal. Peace out.